we're going to start off with Brandon Thurston. He has a report up at Post Wrestling. So earlier this week, we had another report from Brandon about the WWE seeking a pause in the Ring Boy lawsuit. Well, in a very quick turnaround, a judge has granted a pause in this case. The Ring Boy suit, it was filed in October, and it was filed in Maryland primarily because of the Child Victims Act that was passed into law last year in Maryland and allowing for people to sue without any time limits when it comes to those that have been victims of sexual abuse. And so right now there is a contention over this Child Victims Act, and the Supreme Court of Maryland is going to rule on the constitutionality of this Child Victims Act sometime by next August. So that has placed this Ring Boy suit essentially in a pause until that decision is rendered. So we could have really no movement on this case. And you can take an example of the Janelle Grant case, since it was placed on pause back in the spring, and how, this is essentially as it's described, on pause. And if it is deemed that this is not constitutional, and this Child Victims Act is somehow repealed or turned down by this Supreme Court in Maryland, it is possible this case could go away and there's no avenue for them to seek. So this is very noteworthy, and it seems like there's going to be quite a wait now until next summer, whenever this decision is rendered. Do you think, Wei, I mean, I know that you are a political junkie, and there's been a lot of, when it comes to the appointments by Donald Trump for his cabinet, this Ring Boy lawsuit is certainly attached to Linda McMahon, and she is considered one of the glowing candidates with only a Ring Boy lawsuit attached to them in comparison to others. Yeah. Do you feel that a bit of a hold on this case will just further separate this in terms of Linda McMahon, because she has gotten some bad press as a result of this? Not enough that I think it's going to affect her confirmation, but does this kind of put this onto the back burner and is going to be out of the political discourse attached to Linda McMahon?
More so than I think it already has. I don't think it's really been much attached to her at all. If anything, the knock on her is just simply the fact that she's a part of this ridiculous, industry known as professional wrestling. Cue the clip of her, with, I don't know, Trish Stratus, or her with Kane. And it's she really, it's the wrestling attachment that's more of the punchline for, your pundits than I think even something that's a bit more in depth.
Which are the silliest arguments to, if you want to be against Linda McMahon, by all means, but to use the content of WWE programming is
it's an easy haha, look at that wrestling stuff, in the mainstream, and whatever. But like you mentioned, John, she on the list of this sort of roster, she feels like one of the more, I don't know, innocent candidates, or at least somebody who's maybe not a big enough target for maybe most people to even dig into.
No, I don't think she's going to run into any friction of getting appointed. But anyway, that is the latest on that case. You can read the story up at postwrestling.com from Brandon Thurston.
Yeah. Now, is there another avenue for this lawsuit to find some form of I don't know, justice, or the people that are trying to represent the Ring Boys, for instance? Can they go the civil route? Can they do other things like that?
This was going to be a civil suit, so part of it, we would have to speak with their legal team, but part of it was where else would they have jurisdiction, and also that the statute of limitations would allow them to do so. That's why Maryland, this Child Victims Act, allowed them this avenue, and the reason they went with Maryland.
So Rita Chatterton, for instance, that was based in New York, right?
And there was a specific period of time that it was essentially they could go back, and that was just a time frame of where they were relaxing it so they could go back. That was essentially, I don't want to call it a loophole, but it was essentially a period that you did not have to be harnessed by the statute of limitations. So I would be curious from the legal representation if they are planning any alternate avenues, if there are any, to speak of? Like, certainly this has been, the Child Victims Act is something that has been discussed at this, Supreme Court of Maryland was going to be deciding upon. So this is not a new revelation either. Like, this has been in the works for some time, that this decision would be something presented and that will have to be ruled upon.
If you like this video, consider joining our Patreon, the Post Wrestling Cafe. Multiple bonus podcasts every week, ad-free shows, and access to our full archive. Otherwise, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Thank you for watching.